It's time to make some noise. Welcome to Sound Off Sports. On today's show, we're talking, yes, Russell Wilson. Where should this guy end up? We break it down. Plus, the legend, Andre Agassi, comes on the show to talk about the Netflix slam and everything to do with Vegas. And, of course, we're breaking down the drama of Arch Manning and, yes, EA Sports NCAA 25. What's going on there? We get your thoughts. But first, we're starting with everything going on with Russell Wilson. Let's go.
Make some noise. This is Sound Off Sports.
All right, welcome to Sound Off Sports. I'm your host, Mike Davis. We got a great show for you today. We're going to start off with Russell Wilson. I'm going to bring in my producer, James Edward Barrickman, the fourth James Russell Wilson. Listen, it was probably the worst trade of all time, the Denver Broncos making this deal to get Russell Wilson in the building from Seattle, but now this marriage is finally broken up. What are people saying about what's going down with Russell Wilson?
So we got quite a few responses here. The first one from Justin Doris on Facebook. He says, the fact that the Broncos are on the hook for almost $40 million for him and still let him go means there are some serious issues with him being on the team. He'll become another Kaepernick that no team will ever touch, or he'll fade into the sunset and enjoy his early retirement.
Okay, well, both of those things are definitely not going to happen. There's 32 franchises, 32 teams that need a pretty adequate quarterback. And Russell Wilson, listen, I think he's proven himself as a good QB. What happened last year in Denver with him and Sean Payton, there was just a lot of problems. And it started bad from the get-go. James, you and I always talked about him wanting the parking space, him wanting his own office. I mean, these are things that are telltale signs that are not good when it comes to team chemistry.
100%. I think it says a lot about Russ, that they're going to be on the hook for $85 million just to get him out the door. And we know that Russ and Sean Payton have had their issues. You saw Sean Payton chewing him out on the sideline. They benched him with 2 weeks left in the regular season for Jarrett Stidham while they were still in playoff contention.
Right.
So there's a lot of things. And as you mentioned, he had his own office, had, some privileges that other players didn't have. There's that report from when he was in Seattle that he might have tried to get Pete Carroll and the GM in Seattle fired before they traded him away. So there are certainly some red flags about Russ if you're a team looking for a free agent quarterback.
But I think these billionaires are learning as these franchises are evolving through, negative experiences with signings and free agency. You got to move on. Although you're taking that dead money cap hit, what are you supposed to do? If you're recognizing an issue, you want to get it out the door and take the hit and just move on with your team and your life. And that's what you got to do. It sucks, but I think it's the right thing to do, and good organizations do that.
Yeah, you got to rip the Band-Aid off sometimes. This next one is from Jeff Elliott via Facebook. He says, what about the Steelers?
Ooh, well, okay, you're our resident Steeler fan, James Edward Barrickman IV. I mean, you tell me. I have my thoughts. I want to know, though, what you think about this potential marriage between Russell Wilson and Pittsburgh.
So if I'm Russell Wilson, I'm looking around at all the quarterback-needy teams, and you take a look at Pittsburgh, and they check every box. They're a team that's ready to win now. Good defense. Weapons offensively, new OC and Arthur Smith, and then obviously Mike Tomlin. So I think that would be the best fit if I'm Russell Wilson. And if you're the Steelers, you get him for basically nothing to upgrade your quarterback position. You pay him like $2.1 million or whatever it is. The Steelers fan in me is questioning it just because I don't know if I can do the whole Mr. Unlimited in Steelers country, let's ride, and some of the corny things that come with Russ. But also the potential locker room issues that I just mentioned.
Listen, let Russ cook up some Primanti Brothers sandwiches. That's what I'm talking about. I know you want to see Sierra in that black and yellow, but here you go. I think it's a great fit. I think Mike Tomlin keeps him in check. Yes, it's a run-first team. I think he hands the ball off to Jalen Warren. He hands it off to Najee Harris. And then, do a little play action. Let him throw the ball downfield. It's a total upgrade from Mason Rudolph or Kenny Pickett. And I think when you're talking fantasy and throwing the ball downfield, I bet George Pickens has the best year of his career with a guy like Russell Wilson under center. So I'd like to see that.
We will see what happens on that. This next one is from Denise Brown Hofstetter via Facebook. Where is Russ going to end up? She says, the couch like the rest of us. Enjoy your family in retirement.
All right. I don't know what Russell Wilson did to her, but yeah, that's a no-go. There's 32 teams. He's a good QB. He's got a lot of experience. Somebody's going to want him. Let's move in, though, to right now, sink or swim. Well, it's Oscars weekend, and yes, I love the extravagance and the movies and all the great performances from the past year. So I thought, why not? Let's have some fun. Let's give out some awards similar to what they do at the Academy Awards, but let's give them out to some NFL-specific players and situations. So for this sink or swim, we're going to be doing a deep dive. Let's start with Best Actor. So this year, a lot of great performances in the movie world. I think you got Bradley Cooper and Maestro, Coleman Domingo with Rustin, Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer, Jeffrey Wright, American Fiction. But to me, the guy who deserves Best Actor is, yes, the one, the only, Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers. Now, if you haven't seen this film, you got to check it out because he really is putting the entire film on his back. He's like Darren Sharper. Who was that? Greg Jennings. Greg Jennings on that viral Madden clip. But yes, he puts the movie on his back. The Holdovers is all about him, and he really leads the charge. He's got a lazy eye. He smells like fish. And when you think about Best Actor, you're always looking for somebody who else could play that role better. Who else could you envision embodying that character? And Paul Giamatti's the guy. And when that translates to the NFL, I think you obviously got to think Paul Giamatti is Patrick Mahomes. Yes, who else could play quarterback in that Chiefs system and offense and just make everything sink and work? Yes, it's a great foundation with Andy Reid and Veach as the GM and Spagnuolo, but when you really think about it, Patrick Mahomes is the person that takes that team over the top. He's the guy who wins the 2-minute drill. He's the guy who makes Rashee Rice look like Rashee Rice that we know. Any other QB in that situation, they're not winning those Super Bowls. So yes, Paul Giamatti, I think he wins Best Actor, and I think Patrick Mahomes would be the next best actor situation when it comes to the NFL. Let's move on, though, to Best Supporting Actor. A lot of strong performances this year. Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things. You got Sterling K. Brown in American Fiction. But there's 3 big-time performances this year, in my opinion. Robert Downey Jr., Killers of the Flower Moon, Ryan Gosling in Barbie, and yes, Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer. If you've seen any of those films, you know when those 3 guys come on the screen, they raise the bar. They raise the level of the film. Every time they're on screen, they steal the scene. And that's what it's all about. To me, I think Robert Downey Jr. is going to get his first Academy Award for his role in Oppenheimer. And I think when you think about that in the NFL, who's the person who captures your imagination every time you see him? Who is the guy, when he plays, you just can't get enough of him being on that TV screen? It's Tyreek Hill. And to me, Tyreek Hill is the best supporting actor this year for the NFL. And lastly, Best Director. You know, this is a person who's bringing a story to life. This is somebody who's making everybody else look good. He's the person who really has the vision to take a story from the page to the screen. And when you think about that in the NFL, it's certainly Kyle Shanahan. To me, Christopher Nolan, what he did with Oppenheimer, it's a spectacle, especially for how long it is and to keep your interest, right? Well, he really built a great story. He built a great foundation, and all these people and actors come together in a really great way because of his vision and his execution. That's what Kyle Shanahan does with the 49ers. We all know Brock Purdy's not winning Best Actor, but when it comes to Kyle Shanahan and his scheme and his offense and the way that he constructs a team and a vision, very similar to Christopher Nolan. So I would give Best Director to Kyle Shanahan. Those are our awards. We hope you have a good time watching the Academy Awards this weekend. But first, we got so much more SOS for you. Coming up after the break, we're hanging out with the great, the one, the only, Andre Agassi. Stick around.
You're watching Sound Off Sports.
Well, MGM and the Netflix Slam served up an ace here in Las Vegas. I was lucky enough to take in the action at Michelob Ultra Arena. But before the big match on Sunday, yes, I went to the press conference on Saturday night and spoke with the one, the only Andre Agassi. I asked him what it was like to grow up and be a Vegas-born athlete, but also I asked him about some of the evolution that's going on in the sport of tennis. Let's take a look. We have 3 generational superstar talents here with us tonight, and the game of tennis has evolved so much since Rafa, you've turned pro in 2001. For the first time since 1973, we don't have in the top 10 rankings a player with a one-handed backhand. You were known for a great return of serve, two-handed backhand. How has the game evolved where we're not seeing players in the top 10 with a one-handed backhand?
Yeah, so it's interesting, the one-handed backhand versus two, because I think that decision for a young person starting in tennis has a lot to do with what comes natural and where their strengths and weaknesses are. You know, if you have a two-handed backhand, you better be able to move well, I can tell you, or at least move efficiently, because everything has to be kind of in your pocket. But what I would probably say about the evolution of the game was something I learned the hard way by playing this guy. You know, I mean, the game has gone to a point where the geometry is now different. I mean, the rules of engagement, you know, the angles that are created from different parts of the court are simply remarkable. The athleticism that goes in to defending that is another level. So it is a pleasure to be able to talk about it now instead of have to deal with it. A real pleasure. I've always considered a two-handed backhand to be more of an upside than a one-handed backhand, but one-handed does have their strengths, and it does allow you, you know, more comprehensive, say, control of the racket, especially if you even come forward. But at the same time, I mean, maybe the next evolution of the game is going to be seeing the first player ever that can return with two hands and then move to one hand. I mean, I always felt like it was a pretty big advantage having two hands on the return. With that being said, we're going to have a one-handed backhand back in the top 10 probably here pretty soon. But it is a fascinating stat to think that's the first time ever.
You and Steffi, what's your favorite thing to binge on Netflix?
To binge, that's interesting. So I only allow myself to binge when I travel, quite honestly, because it restricts my ability to ruin the rest of my family life by binging. So I try to save that for just the planes, and I've just gotten into Suits now.
Oh,
if you can believe it. I know I'm late to the party.
A lot of people were late to that party.
Yeah.
Last question for you. So, I mean, you know, you're a Vegas born and raised kid. Even your middle name is Kirk, after a fixture in the Las Vegas community, Kirk Kerkorian.
MGM in particular, right?
Yes. So, you know, your dad, Mike, you know, teaching you, training you as a youngster, now full circle to see not just the entertainment capital of the world, but Vegas become the sports capital of the world, and how the city has transformed with all these sports franchises. And, you know, I know you're a big sports guy as a fan as well. Talk a little bit about that evolution and what that means as a Vegas born and raised kid.
Well, it means a great deal. I've watched this city change a lot. So, you know, I was born and raised here, and when I turned pro in 172 years ago, there was about 300,000 people that lived in this town. And I would travel the world representing Vegas, having to answer some very basic questions, such as, what's it like to live in a hotel? And it's like, wait a second, Vegas is more than just, you know, a strip with, you know, so to watch it evolve to a point where now we're seeing not just sports come here, but we're seeing the greatest environments for sports to participate in, the Super Bowl and Formula One now here, and you know, it's remarkable for me. I wish it was around when to have tennis come here now, especially with these two guys. What a gift to Vegas. And by the way, what a gift Vegas is to tennis, you know, and there should be a much more comprehensive way for us all to enjoy it here. We're a city of well over 2 million people now. So there's an opportunity here to do a tennis event, you know, properly, and to do it in a way that can really, you know, express a full expression of the sport. So for me, seeing it now is remarkable from this lens. I mean, this is a city of can-do, right? This is a culture of, if we dream it, we can build it. Our skyline is a representation of that. And so we dream it, we can do it, and we're watching it right here at the MGM. These two guys showing up. This should have happened last year, and it didn't, but we don't stop. You know, it's happening tomorrow, and we're all thrilled about it.
You can't say it better than that guy, the one, the only, the great Andre Agassi. Guys, coming up next, we're talking everything about Arch Manning, UT, and what's going on with this whole EA Sports dilemma. We'll hear your thoughts after the break.
You're watching Sound Off Sports.
All right, welcome back to Sound Off Sports. So now there's a big story that's going on in the college football universe. Of course, it has to deal with Arch Manning, the backup quarterback for the Texas Longhorns. He's opted out of the new EA Sports NCAA 25 game that has finally, because of the NIL stuff, allowing college athletes to actually have their image and likeness instituted into the game. And what do they get for being in the game? I think it's like $600 and basically a copy of the game. We're going to bring in my producer, James Edward Barrickman, the fourth right now. So James, you and me, we're big, fans of Madden, NCAA 25, 100%. All those great EA Sports games. But Arch Manning, the backup QB with the Manning last name and that whole legacy, he doesn't want to be a part of this. He opted out. What did people have to say about this dilemma?
So this is from Josh Rusnak via Facebook. He said, back in my day, they just took the jersey number and stats of the players and just changed the names. I have no problem defeating Texas QB Art Fanning when I play.
Yeah, I mean, I remember playing, and you're like, playing with USC, and you got number 11 for Matt Leinart and number 5 for Reggie Bush. So, yeah, it kind of sucks that you can't play with, Quinn Ewers or, Arch Manning, but Quinn's going to do it. So, I mean, I would like to be able to play with Arch Manning and have that image and likeness. But for a backup QB, it's kind of interesting that he's causing more of a ruckus by just not going with the flow. So I'm confused about the whole situation.
Yeah, and this game will be different where on the old NCAA 14 games, I'm a huge NCAA 14 guy. I played that game for the last 10 years while they've been trying to get this new game out. And you could download online like the rosters with the names and the numbers, so you didn't have to use QB number 18 or running back number 25. So this is different. But here, let's go to this next one.
Okay.
Good for Arch Manning. Kids don't need to play video games anymore. Nobody gives a crap. My kids play sports outside. Drop the video games. It's bull.
Well, you got to love it when an expletive makes its way onto SOS. But, James, what's your thoughts on that? I feel like a lot of athletes, they're part of the fandom of all these video games. Athletes love playing and seeing themselves in these EA Sports video games.
100%. And I think a lot of people care. People have been waiting for this game to come out for the last 10 years. It's not the end of the world. We're all still going to play it. But Arch Manning is one of the biggest names in college football, and you want to see those guys in the game. And to me, it's disappointing because it's going to take away slightly from what the return of this game is going to be. And his reasoning for not wanting to show up in the game was that it's because he's not the starter at Texas yet. And I'm not necessarily buying that excuse.
Is that the reason?
That was his reasoning. I'm not really buying it. And if it's true, it's a weak excuse to me. It's not about you, Arch. It's about us and the fans. Put your ego aside, do us all a favor, and just put yourself into the game, man.
It just causes more of a distraction, like this is not a story if he just opts into the whole 100%. Situation. The big thing is, listen, you got the Manning last name, start your career off like Peyton Manning and just be easy, man, right? Don't do the whole Eli thing where you're, drafted by the Chargers. You don't want to play for the Chargers. You got to go to the Giants. Don't do that whole thing. Be more like Peyton and less like Eli, right?
I couldn't agree with you more there.
All right, there you go. All right, well, speaking of college athletics, coming up, we're actually reflecting on our favorite college basketball memory moment. James and I are going to kind of go head-to-head with that kind of stuff. Stick around. You want to hear what we have to say. SOS is next.
You're watching Sound Off Sports.
All right, so let me just start off by saying this. There's no bigger college basketball fan than me. March Madness is literally my favorite thing. But to me, when I reflect back on those moments, those memories, it's just about the characters, right? It's how you remember Glenn Big Baby Davis at LSU or Greg Oden or Kevin Pittsnoggle or Adam Morrison. Or those are the things, the memories, the players, the Jimmer Fredettes. Sometimes it's even cooler when these guys actually don't succeed at the next level in a weird way because they live in college basketball lore in such a cool, special, unique way. Like Adam Morrison, the fact that he didn't succeed with the Charlotte Bobcats kind of makes everything he did at Gonzaga even cooler. So when I think back about college basketball, those memories, those moments, that's what I like is the guys, the figures, the characters in college basketball like that. What about you?
I would agree with you. It's a lot about the characters. My personal favorite memories came when I was at WVU, my sophomore, junior years. You remember those teams?
Yeah. With
Javon Carter, Daxter Miles, and my personal favorite guy on those teams, Sagaba Konate, who to this day is still the best college shot blocker I've ever witnessed. But to your point about the characters, like Doug Eddard at St. Peter's, the mustache, you remember that when they knocked off Kentucky And I'm really excited to watch these conference tournaments and, of course, March Madness.
Same with me. And, you know, in a lot of ways, I'm excited that these college players are going to get to make some money with these NIL deals. But I am very curious to see how it's going to impact things moving forward in college basketball and March Madness. But you got to love March Madness. It's the best part of March. Guys, thanks for sticking around. We'll see you next time on SOS. Thanks for watching Sound Off Sports, the show where you get to make your voice heard on the biggest topics in the sports world. That's what makes Sound Off Sports different than every other show on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. We want to hear from you. Now, the best way to make sure your hottest take is featured on the show is to give us a call right there at the number on your screen, 702-855-3502. Again, that is 702-855-3502. One more time, 702-855-3502. Now, you can also sound off on our Fox 5 Las Vegas Facebook and X pages. Make sure to keep an eye out for questions of the week, posted every Wednesday evening, or you can shoot us an email at soundoff@kvvu.com. Again, that is soundoff@kvvu.com. One more time, soundoff@kvvu.com. The other thing you can do is watch Fox 5 News at 9 a.m. and Fox 5 News at 11 p.m. to see what these questions are going to be for the week. And some great news to share. Sound Off Sports and the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network are now on YouTube TV. So make sure you subscribe and go check us out. You can also see all of our past episodes on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment page on YouTube. We've had some great guests in the past, like Hall of Famers Earl Campbell and Spencer Haywood, along with Andre Agassi and Bijan Robinson. So make sure you check us out on YouTube, Facebook, X, and most importantly, give us a call to make sure your voice is heard. Sound Off Sports airs every Friday at 7:30 p.m. on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. That's on-air channel 5.2 and Cox Cable channel 125.